And we're back for episode 33 of Pursuing the Perfect Pint podcast. And I think the whole podcast is supposed to be about celebrating, stories from the supply chain. But I think this week, a really interesting one from Denmark, which is all about organic brewing since 1902. And the beers were absolutely delicious. But before we get into that, Brent, your market update / weatherman / money man.
Yeah, well, it's broken record again, Danielle. But we the last episode we talked about we've had a real dramatic change in events. So the twofold impacts are still there. Weather, I would say the barley harvest in France, for example, is now coming to a conclusion. So we are now waiting for the final actual results to come through. But we do know that yields will be lower and probably some minor issues with the size of the kernels and these sort of things. So. But now we're waiting for the rest of the barley crop harvest across Europe. But more importantly, what's going on? It's still quite warm in most of Western Europe, and we haven't had a lot of rain, a bit, but not enough. So there will be ongoing impacts to wheat and corn. So this weather market continues, and it's going to have an impact. That's the big topic, number one. But the other big topic is, we still don't have any relief on the geopolitical front. So we still see lots of uncertainty in the market and volatility. And as these markets build in more risk premium, it will bring commodity prices, including barley, up. So I still think we're in a weather market. We haven't really even maybe stabilizing a little bit, but still trending to the upside. So I guess for anyone worried about their budgets for next year, you should be preparing yourself for the fact that it'll be higher priced environment than we thought, a month or.
And from that situation, I think it's nice to move on to talking to Andreas from Ørbæk Brewing, who have been doing 100% organic brewing since 1902. Let's hear what you and he chatted about.
The Pursuit of the Perfect Pint is now in Denmark with Andreas. Maybe you could tell us a little bit. First of all, thanks for taking some time.
No problem.
Second of all, tell us a little bit about where we are and a little bit of the story of this brewery and I guess we'd say soft drink juice business.
I'll do that. We're in Denmark, on Fyr, which is the center part of Denmark. Kind of say the treasury of food. So because the climate here is optimal for fruits, barley, vegetables. So percent-wise, we produce the most food per capita here in Fyr. So it's logic that we have an organic brewery here, where we can produce not only sodas, but also beer and whiskey distillery. So we do almost everything just organic.
Everything organic, almost everything organic. You say the first organic brewery in Denmark?
We know that there's been a production of organic beer, but 100% organic brewery is, we don't know any before us. Or there was maybe some before conventional was invented, but not afterwards. But the whole process of our making was that the owners wanted to use the organic food stuff that they imported to produce food stuff. So they kind of just mixed something and then they found, we can do a soda. They bought this brewery, which is from 1906, which produced more malty beer back in the day. And it actually did that to produce the sodas. But then they found out we can also do beer organic. So they rebuilt the brewery. So the whole birth of our company was actually, we have something organic. What can we do with that organic food stuff? Not the other way around. They didn't think about the beer. I did because I'm an educated brewmaster, but they didn't think about it before they actually saw it's possible to do.
So it kind of built out of the soft drink and juice and the beer kind of blossomed out of that.
Yeah, it's even further back that they just loved organic.
Yeah.
Kind of hippies back in Denmark, back in the 70s. And they just thought, what can we do with all this nice organic raw materials? And then they mixed it up and they produced a soda and then they bought a brewery for filling the soda. And then they thought, okay, there's a brewery. Why not do organic beer as well? Yeah. That was when we did our first organic beer back in 2001. Back there was only 4 specialty breweries. We have, of course, the big ones, but only 4 small. Now we have over 250 in Denmark.
Yeah. and you end up with a range of products like this, which is pretty extensive. We talked to the brewer earlier. He thought it was pretty easy to make all these brands, but there's much more to that in terms of the go-to-market with this is quite complex to put all this together.
It is. And it's because he doesn't do the planning.
No.
He just
delivers the recipe.
He makes really good productions, really good beer, really good soda and juices. And they get like a plan, and they produce out of that plan, but I make the plan, and that's a bit more complex with all these different products. But I also think it's really fun to have all the different products because we have so much different to offer people, and we kind of take all the segments of beer and try to do it ourselves. Of course, we're best at the ones we've been doing for decades, but it's also fun to produce something like sour beer for the first time, and also a Ölsch, which is actually a Kölsch.
Yeah.
But it's protected to Köln, so we just call it Ölsch. So we did a lot of different experiments, and that's fun. But you also need to plan to do the amount and to fit the market, so you don't get too old in stock.
Yep.
So
they were packaging the strawberry Weiss today, so we had
like it.
Yeah, it was really good. It's really nicely balanced, but that's fairly new product, right? That's
exactly
a new addition.
And that's also sometimes I do the development and the recipes from the heart. This one is actually something that we saw in sales out in the restaurants and bars. You saw Freule.
Yeah.
You know that one from Belgium?
Yep.
We said we can do the same, just with organic raspberry juice.
Yep.
A bit more pricey than conventional.
Yeah.
But the point is to kind of, that segment we haven't done. So then we play a sub-brand.
Yep.
Sip.
Yep.
It's a crazy name.
Yep.
But your hip is from the bird and sip is from sipping.
Yeah.
So but that's been fun.
And there was 5% alcohol, I think. So they're not a Belgium. You could find a Belgium with much higher alcohol.
Yeah.
This is much more moderate, which would be open to more consumers.
Exactly. The focus, the trend here in Denmark, I guess in the whole Europe, is that you consume less alcohol.
Yeah. You're seeing that?
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot. So we also now we have 3 different non-alcoholic beers. Back in the days we had, but now it's really trending. And of course, the health part of it, it's genius. We want to do even more, but it's also investment or science in the yeast.
Yeah.
But now that they have 10 different yeast strains you can use. And I wasn't satisfied with the first one. I couldn't get myself to say this is a really nice beer. But now,
through some refinement, you got to where you were.
And I'm not producing or selecting the yeast, but I wanted to buy something that I can vouch for, so I can use, and the flavor will be good. Of course, you can add the great malt, the great organic malt. You can add the hops, but if the yeast is not working with you, you're not going to get a good beer.
I think that was we tried the alcohol-free IPA, which was really, really good. Really nicely balanced. And in terms of, I say flagship, your number one brand is this one.
This one, yeah. This is the first one we got in supermarkets. And the whole thing, why we got it in there was, of course, it's a great beer. But the Danish supermarket went out and said, we need all our goods organic as well.
Yep. So
they found organic milk, organic shell. And they Googled organic brewery, and they found only one in Denmark, only one in Europe at that point in 2001. So they bought this and put it on shelf. So that's also why people were introduced to it.
Yeah.
And it still sells a lot because
it's amazing. So one day the phone rang and they called and asked, could we put this on the shelves?
Yeah.
Pretty good phone call.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you need to have the introduction to the customer. You don't have that. You only sell a little part in your local shop. It was, not worldwide. It was national distributed. So, and people still take that a lot as a choice in the supermarket. So, but now we have a lot of competitors.
Yeah, there's more
250.
You can still say you're the first and still the best.
But yeah, we are. I would say we're still the best. At least we're the first 100% organic brewery, but also part of the 4 different who started out already in 2001. So stuff. So now people are looking at us more like the conventional, a bit old brewery.
And these are 750s, and you got 500 ml.
Yeah,
still
we also have the 33.
33s. Yeah.
So yeah. So, but yeah, also a lot of people starting a brewery today would do cans.
Yeah.
But as we started in 2001, I don't even think anybody was doing beer in cans back then.
No.
So, and it's pretty expensive just to buy new equipment.
Yeah. And today in June of 2026, cans are terribly expensive. So you probably be happy that you stayed with.
Yeah, but they're also in Europe changing the law that you need to reuse the glass, and you also pay.
There's a little bit of a museum feel to this because we also have the little 5 liter. In the US, they'd say a growler, so people could bring their own 5 liter bottle in and get it filled and take it home.
And the thing that you see on my chest here, it's established in 1906, and of course, it's not me or not the family at least who started that up, but here in Denmark back in the days, all local communities had a brewery. So this is the local community brewery,
very localized,
local farmers, and then they could bring their barley in here, malt it, and they lifted the germination box, but at least manually handled, and then they dried it in the kiln, but only used timber.
Yeah,
and then they burned all the enzymes.
Yeah,
so you couldn't produce a lot of alcohol, but they produced a really sweet beer, brown beer with a lot of smoke flavor. So if you got that today, everybody would think they were drinking syrup from an ashtray.
Yeah.
But back then it was for the farmers. They could take that 5 liter beers. They could go all night, through the night. They didn't have Red Bull or energy drink. They only had a really sugary, flavorful, low alcohol. You only hit 1.5, maybe 2% on a lucky day.
Yeah.
So but that was back in the days when you had a local breweries and were cleaned by themselves and brought back to the brewery, got it refilled, and then they had like their own bottles.
Yeah.
So the reuse system was even more.
Yeah. It was
better.
Yeah.
Because I think with the brewery, if you buy those at the brewery full, then you can reuse it.
Exchange program.
Exactly.
We also saw a keg line. So when we heard the keg volume is increasing. So I was anticipating that meant that people are getting back to more on premise. You're starting to see this getting back to whatever normal is.
Yeah. At least in Denmark, we saw that during Corona, of course, there was no sales in restaurants and bars, but afterwards, people were like in death. They built up the need to go in restaurants and bars and support them, but also to get that beer, its sun, and so it kind of went up. But then again, we have some big players here in Denmark, Carlsberg, Brew, and then they tend to kind of get their restaurant customers before because it's stuff. But now the chain of restaurant, they made this brand, the organic brand, which you see it here. It's the organic branding.
Like a label. Yep.
As a label, and the restaurant can get that if they at least have 60%. It says the percent underneath, 60%. You can also get 90%, 100%. But they can get that label in the door if they have 60% organic. And then it's easy to change the beer and the sodas. The flavor is the same. Of course, the price is high, but when you're in a restaurant and bar, the price is always high. So we got a lot of customers that way. And now we're so small, we're just pushing it some more in the restaurant bar to get it in. And we have a salesperson now for that. So you need to have somebody out introducing the beer. So we're seeing a rise in PX, which is a better way to sell beer.
Yeah. It's quite a unique story. If you think globally, organic's more established here in Denmark than I would say anywhere. And it's not assured, but the way the government is thinking, the underlying conversation seems to be more supportive towards organic. So it's not gonna be pushing against it. If anything, maybe you'll see more and more support to keep pushing the organic agenda. That would be
the reason. Government has been talking about it a lot, but it's mainly based on the demo we really hit beneath us. So we just drill a hole and we take out the water, and it's really high quality. But because conventional farming has been done for so many years, you see now traces of pesticides in the water. And the government wants to change that. And that's promoting that you make the farmland to just wild nature. And so they buy a lot of that, but also just to say we need to do more organic farming. And also Danes know that to support that idea, they have to buy organic to support producing that way. But also, it's true that Danes are really focused about that. And I also think that's because organic, for me at least, the interest started with the way they treat animals. Beneath that, there's a lot of laws saying that you need so much space for the pig or the cow. So course, the lesser impact on environment. So people, they just see it as a really strong brand to have that organic label on it. And I also think that the label itself is just a strong brand made by law people. So
it's a wonderful, wonderful story and a good success story. The Pursuing the Perfect Pint podcast, we usually wrap this up by saying, if you had to think about what would your enjoyment of the perfect pint look like? It could be the beer style, it could be the occasion, it could be the people that you're with. But when I say a perfect pint, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
It's always the people I'm with.
Yeah.
It's always the people I'm with. But of course, if you get a bad beer, even though you love the people, you won't say this is the best pint I ever had. So yeah, I said, Chuck, my boss just told you, I just went to a music festival, but the sun was shining. I might even be a little bit brown in my head after that. But I got our own beer and some of my colleagues here in Fyn. We had the Fyn beer bar where we have 5 from Fyn. So we're competitors, but we're still really good friends. And we got the beer in the sun, sitting on a hill, listening to music, not seeing the music because then you're in the crowd.
Yeah.
Just listening to music, getting the sun, and then cheering with a good beer from all the other breweries. And they were tasting my beer, I was tasting their beer. It was really almost a perfect pint, I would say.
Yeah, it's got a chance to get towards the perfect pint.
And then the other one was when I was young and I was actually living in Switzerland, and you know that.
Yeah.
And I was a skiing bum, you would say. I was working on a skiing resort, and I could get up on the top before everybody else because I had a job tracking. And then sat there with my best friend, opened the beer, cheered, and then we drank that, and we took one of the best pints in my life.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Well, first, thanks for taking some time. It's a wonderful story, and really appreciate taking some time. Some wonderful products. If you're in Denmark and you get to the central part of Denmark, stop by here. Wonderful spots, or at the distillery. You have a distillery. We didn't talk about the distillery, but you've got a distillery doing the same organic.
Yeah.
You've got some barrels that are aging.
Yeah.
So
good thing to have a
it's worth the stop. So again, thanks, Andreas.
Thank you. What's interesting? It's great having you.
I think that was fascinating, Brent. I think you and I had the opportunity to taste so many of their beers, and particularly their non-alc beer. And you know me, I love a non-alcoholic beer. And honestly, one of the best I think I've ever tasted. Really good.
Yeah, super great. And from that standpoint, and we're just saying fundamentally, just really, really good product.
Yeah.
And forgetting for a moment that it's organic, just on its own. In a beer category, it's really good. Then you add the whole organic story. It's maybe backing up a bit, Danielle, you know, the fact that there's some value when you get out and have these discussions in person, right? So we could go through the brewery, we could taste some of the products and hear the story firsthand. I guess where we can, we'll continue to do it. The platform, we can do things remotely, but there's nothing better than getting together with people and hearing the story. A great story, you know, that's organic, of course, but beer kind of came out of other products, you know, the juices and the soft drinks and all these things. So really a kind of an integrated operation with beer as a major part of it, of course, and good products. So uniquely Danish from that side, but I think there's lots of things we could learn from it, or anyone that listens to that little talk from Andreas can learn a lot about of the value. Like I talked in the video, they got a phone call from the supermarket saying, "Hey, can we have your product?" Like that's a win. Anyone in the world would love that. If you got a phone call in your business and said, "Hey, can we need your product?" Like, how do you get to that situation? Is that's nirvana, I would say.
And I think you and I were chatting, Brent. I think the message of organic is so simple. Everyone broadly has an understanding of what organic means. And even as Andreas was explaining, the sort of percentage organic, you've brought it down to a really simple number. People get it and understand it. I'd be curious to find out if the big supermarket retailers and other parts of the world are phoning any brewers asking for regen ag products that they are labeling, and I think that's the simplicity we're missing on the regen ag side.
Yeah, it's a great point, Danielle. Like organic certainly has a presence elsewhere in the world. It's never got integrated or embedded as much as it has in Denmark. And maybe there may be something unique, and I think the regulatory pressure is, you know, ongoing for the soil health and water purity and all these things. You know, there's a clear sign going forward that they're going to continue to work on that, which is great. And I guess what you and I talked about is if you could somehow get to the same place using regen ag is maybe a different approach, but similar in nature. That what if people actually wanted to say, hey, I hear more and more about conservation ag or regen ag, whatever we
Yes.
call it. But people start to say, I really would like some more products that I can put in front of consumers that tell the story of being better for the planet and so on. We haven't seen a lot of that yet. You and I keep asking anyone we can talk to, and I guess through things like the podcast and discussions we have, we'll keep pushing that narrative to see whether we can at least we should find out if in some parts of the world consumers would actually latch onto that idea.
Yeah, and be interested. I honestly think genuinely anyone who's in Denmark, go visit Ørbæk Brewing. Fantastic facility, delicious beers. We tasted loads of their soft drinks as well. Absolutely lovely. So it would be a brilliant day out to see the kind of whole supply chain, really from the organic farmer.
Yeah.
You know,
So
all
you
the way
say what was an hour and a half from Copenhagen, so a pretty easy drive. When you're up there, try these ginger shots, which I was trying myself, and that was also something unique. That you know, just to start your day off with with uh, a good shot of ginger just sets things right. So lots of great things to experience. We'd highly recommend it. I guess in a way, Danielle will say, I think we in the future we would plan a return to Denmark because lots
definitely.
of
It
great
was
things.
really good.
For.
Brilliant. And on that note, Brent, see you next week.
All the best. Yep. Cheers.
Cheers. Getting so much more